In this series on how to expat, we speak with the Cocoa Nomad himself, Alondo Brewington. Okay, this is dcbornrob. You're watching Erasing Borders. I'm here with Alondo. We're in Medellin, Colombia, and we're actually at the back of Sweet Georgia Cafe. So in case you hear some noise of them cooking in the back. Anyway, I met this brother the other night. We were just talking. Actually, we met a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago, because it was before our trip to Vietnam. And he had told me that he lived in Vietnam for a long time. And we got to talking a little bit more, and I learned a little bit more about him. I found that this brother's got some passports. So while my goal here is to encourage travel and encourage everyone to, whether it's your neighborhood, your city, your state, or even outside the country, first thing you gotta do is get that passport if you're leaving this country. So keep that in mind. You're gonna wanna get your passport. But we got to talking a little bit, and I found out after talking to him some more today that this brother's done a lot. He's opened my eyes to a lot of different things. So let's jump right into it. Alondo, tell us about yourself.
Okay, I'm Alondo Brewington. Known online some places as the Cocoa Nomad. I have a podcast and IG and Twitter. I've been traveling for about 3.5 years consistently now after I left the US, and it's just been something that I love to do. And I realized after a year of traveling that it was for me. I had started with this program called Remote Year that some people probably have heard of. We're traveling around for a year with a group of people. It's a pretty large group. It's about 70 of us when we started. And about halfway through, I was like, well, I'm going to leave the program and just start traveling on my own. I ended up not leaving the program, but I ended up realizing that I absolutely wanted to keep traveling. It was something I wanted to do. I loved it. So I went back home. I sold almost all of my stuff. And so I could just keep staying on the road, everything but the house. But if anybody wants to buy a house in Goldsboro, North Carolina, I've got one for sale. I'm trying to get rid of. But I fell in love with it. It became something I realized that when I started seeing the world, it was something that was so impactful for me that I was like, I don't want to stop. I absolutely don't want to stop. And
it changes who you are.
It absolutely does.
Gives you a different perspective on life when you meet someone from another country.
Yeah.
And you get to chat with them for a while. So I'm going to get the question too. How old are you, and how are you able to travel financially?
Okay, that's a great question. I think it's an important thing that everybody, you've got to have a way to fund yourself. You know, I've seen some people that kind of throw caution to the wind and say, oh, I'm just going to start this life. And I'm like, if you have to, I mean, there's people coming from other countries, the US, of course, that have done that. But I think financial stability is the very, very first thing that you need to get a hold of. And it's very important that, you know, I always start with positive cash flow in the month. You need to get that down at home before you go anywhere else. It's like you want to make sure you got more money coming in than you got going out. Because once you build that skill of managing your spending and managing your earnings, then that can go with you anywhere. That travels everywhere in the world. And you'll have different, of course, cost of living depending on where you are, but you have that as a base, and it builds confidence that you know you can take care of yourself as you're traveling. Now for me, I'm a software developer by trade. Like I've been coding since I was 12 years old. I've been a professional software developer for over 20 years. So this lifestyle is kind of tailor-made. So when I tell people that, they go, of course you can do it from where you are. But I'm like, I've also experimented though, and we're going to talk about this, other ways that I've made money, because I always want other people to know, it's like, yeah, even if you don't code, that's okay. It's like, you don't have to be a software developer to be able to do this. I think there are other ways that you can make money. And I've had my eyes open, like my mind blown literally, when I started traveling and meeting different people and the kinds of things that they did. I'm like, wait, what? I met a nurse who was traveling. And I'm like, how do you even do that? And she's like shared like how she was doing like remote consulting and sharing these things and doing these the teaching and things remotely, just having an internet connection, like working with hospitals and other nurses and hospital staff like from around the world. So I'm like, oh, okay. So this is a thing that's just not for a certain group of people or certain jobs. It's like you can figure out a way in a lot of cases that you can outsource yourself, as it were, to like a remote location and work, and start to take advantage of a lot of the benefits. So I started with the travel program, but then since then I've just been working. I'm a freelancer. I write my own apps in the App Store, and that's how I sort of manage. I also do a little bit of voiceover work too. It's another way that I've managed to make money, and then a couple other things that we'll talk about. We'll get into that are fun ways to make money. You know?
Now, let's take a step back and think for someone that I'm trying to encourage to, or we're trying to encourage to just, you know, leave their state, leave their city, take that first step for travel. Financially, how would you encourage them to do that?
I think I saved money, and I will go back a little step further too, even on the traveling tip, because I'm a big fan of domestic travel. The U.S. is a huge country.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful country. There's all kinds of different terrains that you don't get if you live in some of these other smaller countries necessarily. So I actually started traveling within the U.S. first. I actually did a lot of themed trips. Like I would hop in my car. Like I'd watch the Food Network and they would visit these barbecue places. So I literally plotted a barbecue trip across the Southeast. I got in my car and drove from North Carolina all the way to Austin, Texas, looped back through Arkansas and Memphis to get those ribs, and back through Georgia, which is home. I'm originally from Atlanta. So like I stopped and I get my Georgia cue too, and work my way back. And I would do that around golf. I did it around poker. I did it around barbecue. I've done it around like, I wanted to do a train. I had never ridden on a train. So I bought a train ticket and I rode a train from Carolina to DC to Chicago to Denver and back. And just to see like what that life would be like. What is it like to see the country by train? And I highly encourage it. Just know that if you catch Amtrak, once you leave the East Coast, it's gonna be late, like by 2 or 3 hours. That train is always late. It's crazy.
Oh, yeah, I have my experience on that too. And I've traveled around, I think I've done maybe 33, 34 states out of 50 states. So where have you been? What's your favorite places to go to in the U.S.?
Okay, so I'm about the same as you. I've done about 30, 35, 36 states. I love the Southeast, but I mean, I'm a Georgia boy, growing up in the Georgia line, as I call it, growing up in the Carolinas and Georgia. So like, that's my home, that's my stomping ground, like those 3 states. I literally drive around like the 3 states just to do tech talks. Like I talk about coding and stuff. My favorite place to travel, that's hard because like for different reasons, to me, like a trip has like a specific meaning. Like when I go to a place, like I love that barbecue trip. Like that barbecue trip is probably like top ranked number one American experience I ever had. Was like learning about burnt ends in this little town in Arkansas, getting like really good Texas brisket in Austin, eating at this weird place called the Shack down in Mississippi, and it's got all kinds of different kind of barbecue. Of course, the Memphis rib, you can't. That speaks for itself, So I really did. That's probably my favorite. I'm a snowboarding fan too, so like going out to Utah and like I love to do that too. So that's like a favorite like trip of mine. So like to go to Brighton, it's a little small place, away from the bigger resorts like Park City and stuff. It's really inexpensive. The people are really friendly. It's amazing powder, so like it's a good experience there. But even there's a budget way to do it too. Like there's a little place called Sugar Mountain in North Carolina. You can go there. Like everything. I try to find a way to do it like on a budget. Like if I don't have the money to do something like starting out in my career, of course I didn't. So like ways to fund the trips or smaller trips. And just get a taste of it. I think when you start traveling, you start to learn about yourself. And the things I think you can get down with domestic travel is like learning how to pack, like what you need, getting your essentials down, because you start to learn like, man, I don't need all this stuff. Like when you first start taking these trips, you got like 3-4 suitcases.
It takes a while to get there.
Yeah, but you learn to like, you get it down to the essentials. And like now I can literally pack and go back to my apartment right now. I can be packed and done and out in 30 minutes. Like I pride myself.
You got me beat there.
I can get going.
It's gonna take
like,
a little bit longer.
Not that I've ever had to. Just like I've never had to flee a country, but like I can if things go sideways.
If you need to,
like, yeah, I can get out in 30 minutes. Like
so for like local travel, I guess the first thing for someone to do is something close by. So get out of your neighborhood first. Then get out of your city, and if you're going to leave a state, I don't know, you can hop on a Greyhound. I've taken Greyhound before. Amtrak is another. Amtrak, to be honest with you, is not cheap.
No.
Amtrak is not budget. Sometimes it's cheaper to fly.
You can get some deals. They have like you can get like a package, and there's some deals that you can.
I guess it depends on where you're going.
Yeah, that's
too,
the other
and
thing.
where you're coming from too. I mean,
so like the quick trip to New York from Carolina, it's a $49 train ticket.
What?
And it's a great ride. It's internet on the train. And you can it'll get you up to DC like for $50.
And the seats are comfortable.
Yeah. And you can walk around. That's the other thing. You can stretch your legs.
Exactly. Go to the bar car. Go to the cafe car.
Always do that.
Yeah. I've been where we did a trip once from Northern California, from San Francisco down to LA.
So that's
down the coast.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Beautiful. And we had our own room. I always wanted to do a sleeper car. Amazing.
I would say absolutely. Just like as a travel tip, I didn't even my trip all the way to Denver, I didn't get a sleeper car. Like I sat in that one seat and just got walk around. I would not advise doing that. If you're going to go that far, get a sleeper car.
If you're going far.
If you're going far, yeah. No, for the DC quick trip, it was like a great like day trip. Like you could just get up, do DC, and visit the and then come back. It's like wonderful way to do it. I think it's a great way to start traveling. Like it's a good way to start by seeing the U.S. if you don't have a passport yet, because you're going to have to get one if you want to leave the U.S.
Yeah, start early on the passport. That's going to be a process for you right there. It doesn't take long. I mean, it's relative. It depends on how soon you want to leave. But how long did it take you to get your passport? Let's talk passports, too. Okay. Because this brother's got some passports. I saw him earlier. You don't have them handy, do you?
They're in the bag back there.
Yeah, we'll pull them out later. I'll have them pull it out later. I'll go ahead and stop and we'll pull that out because you got to see this. I thought I had some stamps in my one passport. This brother's got 3. But if you're not traveling outside the country for something that's closer, that's what we're encouraging you to do. Get out, start small, learn how to pack. Learn how to pack light. Stay for a day. Stay for 2 days if it's something like that. Have an event to go to. Food is a good choice, like you said. Food Network is a good one to start. Find this place that you've seen on TV that they said it was just great, and go and find out for yourself.
Now, I'm going to be a homer and just recommend, as a Georgia, like I said, I'm a Southern boy, Georgia Carolina. I'm going to tell you places you need to go for food. And the first place you need to take yourself is Charleston, South Carolina. You need to get down to the Low Country. We're down there. Our history is strong. There's a lot of food. When I was a kid, when we left Atlanta, my dad got stationed in Charleston, so I spent a lot of years down there, and I go back all the time. But if you want a good food experience, man, Charleston, you can't do better than Charleston. I mean, I would say Charleston and New Orleans are like the 2 places for food that I would highly recommend anybody travel. Even I tell people from other countries when they come to the States, because most people think about New York and Los Angeles, Chicago. I'm like, nah, you need to see New Orleans, you need to see Charleston, South Carolina. There's a lot of history, a lot of good food, and a great experience. And it's definitely something. And Savannah's another one too. Savannah's another place where I would say, you can really experience these beautiful like coastal southern cities and have that experience. They're definitely worth it.
Okay.
Please comment and share if you liked the video. Please subscribe and kick the bell.